1890. Dry Creek, Minnesota. Ella Sullivan stepped off the supply wagon into a logging camp that smelled of fresh-cut pine and old smoke. And the first thing she saw was the bridge tollkeeper watching her from the shadow of the mill office. Garrick Caldwell stood with his arms crossed, a tight smile on his face that made her stomach turn. She had left him behind in Wisconsin 3 months ago. Told him it was over. Told him she was done. He had followed her here. The camp stretched along the riverbank, rough cabins and stacked timber everywhere. Men covered in sawdust moving between the trees. She clutched her small leather bag and forced herself to walk toward the cluster of buildings at the center of the camp, her heart hammering. She had promised the town council she would build a school if they backed her claim to the empty lot near the church. She had promised herself she would start over. Now, Garrick was here, and she knew he would not let her go without a fight. Ben Sullivan had been in Dry Creek for 2 weeks, working as a sawyer and keeping his head down. He was undercover, sent by the territorial marshal to investigate reports of extortion and land fraud. The camp owner suspected someone was selling parcels to outside investors before the logging rights were even secured, and the marshal needed proof. Ben could not reveal why he was really here, could not risk spooking the guilty party before he had evidence. He watched the new arrival step off the wagon and immediately spotted trouble. Garrick Caldwell, the man who controlled the only bridge into town and charged fees that bled travelers dry, moved toward her with the easy confidence of a man who thought he owned whatever he wanted. Ben had heard rumors that Garrick collected debts like trophies, that he kept a ledger of every favor owed and every slight suffered. The woman, Ella, had the look of someone trying very hard not to run. Ben set down his saw and wiped his hands on his trousers, watching.
You should not be here. The morn runs stretching, once out of set, and where pless of the time. The morn the one stress but that for year in his trams. There were their lives with a lost a lod spock. A singular stress. Ella should going frest in the teaching 9 ties. The head had barred feither. I called it tire, but my signly was pay for a Christ it's walking. I sandalios.
Garrick said, his voice low and sharp.
I told you we were finished. I came here to start a school, not to see you.
Garrick smiled, but his eyes were cold.
You think you can just walk away from what we had? You think you can ignore me? I own the bridge, Ella. I control who comes and goes. No one crosses without my say-so, and no one forgets a debt.
I never owed you anything.
You owe me respect. You owe me an answer for leaving without a word.
Ben stepped closer, his boots crunching on the wood chips scattered across the ground.
The lady said she is done talking. Maybe you should move along.
Garrick turned, his expression darkening.
This does not concern you, Sawyer. It concerns me if you are harassing someone on camp property.
Garrick stared at him for a long moment, then smiled that tight, cruel smile again.
We will see how long you last here, friend.
He turned and walked away, his shoulders stiff with anger. Ella let out a slow breath, her hands shaking.
Thank you.
Who is he?
Someone I thought I left behind.
He does not seem like the kind who lets go easy.
No, he is not.
Ben studied her face, saw the fear she was trying to hide.
You planning to stay in Dry Creek?
I promised the council I would build a school. I have nowhere else to go.
Then you should know, Garrick Caldwell is more than a jealous ex. He is dangerous. He uses that bridge to control people, and he has the sheriff in his pocket.
How do you know that?
I keep my ears open.
Ella looked at him. Really looked at him. And saw something steady in his eyes. Something she could trust.
What is your name?
Ben Sullivan.
Ella Sullivan.
Same last name.
Not related.
Good to know.
She smiled a little. The first real smile since she arrived. And Ben felt something shift in his chest. That night, Ella moved into the small room above the camp store. A drafty space with a narrow bed and a single window that looked out over the river. She unpacked her bag, hung her spare dress on a peg, and sat on the edge of the bed with her hands folded in her lap. She could still see Garrick's face, that smile that promised he was not done with her. She had left Wisconsin because he had grown possessive, controlling, angry when she spoke to other men or made plans without him. She had thought distance would be enough. She had been wrong. A soft knock came at the door.
Yes?
Ben's voice came through the thin wood.
Just checking you got settled.
She opened the door. He stood in the narrow hallway, his hat in his hands.
I am fine. Thank you.
If Garrick comes around again, you let me know.
Why are you helping me?
Because I have seen men like him before. They do not stop until someone makes them.
And you think you can make him?
I think I will try.
She looked at him, saw the calm in his eyes, the quiet danger that stirred only when needed.
You are not just a Sawyer, are you?
I am whatever I need to be.
He put his hat back on and walked away, and Ella closed the door, her heart beating a little faster. The next morning, she started planning the school. She walked the empty lot near the church, paced off the dimensions, sketched a rough floor plan in her notebook. The council had agreed to provide lumber and basic supplies if she could prove she had the commitment to see it through. She spent the afternoon at the general store, buying nails and a hammer. And when she returned to the lot, Ben was there, stacking lumber.
What are you doing?
Helping.
I did not ask for help.
I know. But you are going to need it.
She smiled and picked up a board. They worked together in silence, cutting and fitting. And by the time the sun was low, they had the frame of one wall standing. Ella stepped back, wiping sweat from her forehead.
It is starting to look like something.
It is starting to look like hope.
She glanced at him, surprised by the softness in his voice.
You believe in hope?
I am trying to.
That night, Ben met with the camp owner in the mill office. The man, a lean, grizzled logger named Hank, handed him a sheaf of papers.
These are land deeds, all signed over to a company out of Chicago. Garrick Caldwell brokered every one of them. He is selling parcels before the rights are even cleared. When the investors show up and find out the land is not theirs, it will be too late. Garrick will be long gone with the money. Do you have proof he is behind it? Not yet. But I am close. Close is not enough. We need something solid, something that ties him directly to the fraud. I am working on it.
Ben left the office and walked back toward his cabin, his mind turning over the pieces. Garrick was smart, careful. He used intermediaries, kept his name off the paperwork. The only way to catch him was to find a mistake, a slip, a moment when he got careless. The next day, Ella was hammering boards into place when Garrick appeared at the edge of the lot. He leaned against a post, watching her.
You are wasting your time, Ella. This town is already sold. In a few months, none of this will matter.
What are you talking about?
I am talking about progress. Investors are coming, and they are going to turn this camp into something real. Your little school will not fit in their plans.
You do not own this town.
I own enough of it.
Ben walked around the corner of the building, a board in his hands.
You need to leave.
Garrick straightened, his smile fading.
You again. Me again. You are making a mistake, Sullivan. I do not think so.
Garrick stared at him, then turned and walked away. Ella set down her hammer, her hands shaking.
He is going to do something. I can feel it.
Let him try.
2 days later, a photographer arrived in Dry Creek. He was a thin, nervous man with a wooden camera on a tripod, traveling through the logging camps to take portraits for the workers to send home. Ella paid him a silver dollar to take a photograph of the school frame, something she could show the council to prove progress. The photographer set up his equipment, ducked under the black cloth, and took the picture. As he was packing up, Garrick appeared.
I want a photograph too.
The photographer hesitated, then nodded. Garrick posed in front of the mill office, his arms crossed, looking every inch the man in charge. The photographer took the picture, then packed his equipment and left. That night, the photographer was attacked. Ben heard the commotion and ran to the edge of the camp, where the man lay on the ground, his camera smashed, his plates scattered.
What happened?
The photographer coughed, blood on his lips.
He wanted the plates. The ones I took today. He tried to take them all, but I hid one. Where? Under the wagon seat.
Ben ran to the wagon, found the plate wrapped in cloth, and held it up to the moonlight. The image was faint, ghostly, but clear enough. Garrick, standing in front of the mill office, and in the background, visible through the open door, a stack of papers on the desk, and 2 men shaking hands. One of them was the sheriff. The other was a man Ben recognized from the wanted posters, a land swindler who had been operating across 3 territories. Ben's heart raced. This was the proof he needed. The photographer died before morning. The camp erupted in anger and fear. Hank demanded answers, but the sheriff, a squat man named Dooley, shrugged and said it looked like a robbery gone wrong. Ben knew better. He took the plate to Ella and showed her.
This ties Garrick to the land fraud. He is working with the sheriff and a known swindler. If we can get this to the territorial marshal, Garrick goes to prison.
But if he finds out we have it, he will come after us.
He already is.
That afternoon, Garrick showed up at the school site with 2 men Ben did not recognize. Hard-faced drifters with guns on their hips.
I heard you have something that belongs to me. I do not know what you are talking about. The photograph plate. The photographer told me he hid one before he died. I want it. He did not tell me anything. You are lying.
Garrick nodded to the 2 men, and they stepped forward. Ben moved in front of Ella, his hand dropping to his side.
You do not want to do this. I think I do.
The first man reached for his gun, and Ben moved. He was faster, his fist connecting with the man's jaw before the gun cleared the holster. The second man swung a punch, and Ben ducked, driving his shoulder into the man's ribs and sending him sprawling. Garrick stepped back, his face dark with fury.
You just made a big mistake, Sullivan. Not the first.
Garrick turned and walked away, the two men limping after him. Ella grabbed Ben's arm.
He is going to come back with more men. We have to get that plate to the marshal.
The nearest marshal office is 2 days' ride. Garrick controls the bridge. He will stop us before we get halfway.
Then, we do not use the bridge.
What are you thinking?
There is a ford downstream, past the mill. The water is high, but it is passable.
How do you know?
I walked the river the day I arrived. I always look for a way out.
Ben smiled.
Smart.
We leave tonight.
They packed light, just the plate wrapped in oilcloth, a little food, and a bedroll each. Ben saddled 2 horses from the camp stable, and they rode out under cover of darkness, the river a silver ribbon in the moonlight. The ford was rough, the water chest high on the horses, the current strong. Ben went first, his horse steady, and Ella followed, her hands tight on the reins. They made it across and rode hard through the pine forest, the trees closing in around them. By dawn, they were miles from Dry Creek, riding through open country. Ben kept checking over his shoulder, watching for pursuit.
How far to the marshal office?
Another day and a half, if we keep this pace.
Garrick will send men after us.
I know.
They rode until midday, then stopped to rest the horses by a narrow creek. Ella knelt by the water, splashing her face, and Ben stood watch.
Why did you really leave him?
Garrick?
Yes.
He was not always cruel. When I met him, he was charming, ambitious. But after a few months, he changed. He started watching me, questioning where I went, who I spoke to. He told me I belonged to him, that I owed him for everything he had done for me. When I tried to leave, he threatened my family. He said he would ruin my father's business, that he would make sure I had nothing and no one. So, I ran.
That takes courage.
It takes desperation.
Still, courage.
She looked at him, saw the honesty in his eyes.
Who are you really, Ben Sullivan?
I told you. I am whatever I need to be.
That is not an answer.
I am a man trying to go straight. I made mistakes, did things I am not proud of. Now I am trying to make up for them.
What kind of mistakes?
The kind that put people in danger. The kind that got people hurt.
And now, you are risking your life to stop Garrick.
Now, I am trying to do the right thing.
She reached out and took his hand.
Thank you.
For what?
For seeing me as more than just someone to protect. For trusting me.
You are easy to trust.
They rode on, and by late afternoon, they saw riders behind them. 3 men, pushing hard.
Garrick sent his dogs.
Can we outrun them?
Not for long. We need to find cover.
Ahead, the land rose into low hills, rocky and scattered with scrub. Ben urged his horse forward, and they climbed into the rocks, dismounting and leading the horses into a narrow ravine. The riders came closer, their shouts echoing off the stone. Ben pulled his rifle from the saddle and crouched behind a boulder.
Stay down.
I am not hiding while you fight.
Ella. Please.
Give me a gun.
He stared at her, then handed her his pistol.
You know how to use it?
My father taught me.
Good.
The riders reached the base of the hill and dismounted, moving cautiously into the rocks. Ben fired a warning shot, the crack of the rifle echoing through the ravine. The men dove for cover.
We do not want trouble. Just give us the plate and ride on. Not happening. Garrick said to bring it back or do not come back at all. Sounds like your problem, not mine.
One of the men tried to flank them, scrambling up the slope to the left. Ella saw him and fired, the shot kicking up dust near his feet. He yelped and dove behind a rock.
I told you I could shoot.
I believe you.
The standoff lasted until dusk. The men tried twice more to move closer, and each time Ben or Ella fired, driving them back. Finally, as the light faded, the men retreated, mounting their horses and riding back the way they came. Ben waited until they were out of sight, then let out a long breath.
They will go back and tell Garrick where we are. He will send more men, better armed.
Then we ride through the night.
The horses are exhausted.
So are we. But we do not have a choice.
They rode under the stars, the land dark and silent around them. Ella swayed in the saddle, fighting to stay awake, and Ben reached over and took her reins, leading her horse alongside his.
Lean on me if you need to.
I am fine.
You are stubborn.
You are one to talk.
He smiled, and they rode on. By morning, they reached the edge of a small town, little more than a crossroads with a general store and a livery. Ben asked after the marshal office and was told it was another half-day east. They bought supplies, filled their canteens, and rode on. The marshal office was a low building at the edge of a larger town, a flag hanging limp in the still air. Ben and Ella dismounted, their legs stiff, and walked inside. The marshal, a tall man with gray hair and a star on his chest, looked up from his desk.
Help you? We have evidence of land fraud in Dry Creek. Garrick Caldwell is selling parcels to outside investors before the rights are cleared. He is working with the local sheriff and a known swindler.
Ben unwrapped the plate and set it on the desk. The marshal studied it, his expression hardening.
This is solid. Where did you get it? A photographer took it by accident. Garrick killed him to get it back. You have witnesses? The camp owner, Hank. He will testify. All right. I will send deputies to Dry Creek and bring Caldwell in.
He controls the bridge. He has armed men.
Then, we will bring enough men to make him think twice.
The marshal stood and shook Ben's hand.
You did good work. Both of you. Just doing what needed doing.
They left the office and stood on the dusty street, the sun warm on their faces.
It is over.
Not quite. Garrick is still out there.
But the marshal will arrest him.
If he does not run first.
They rode back toward Dry Creek, slower this time, the tension easing. By the time they reached the camp, word had spread that the marshal was coming. Hank met them at the edge of the lot, relief clear on his face.
Thank God you made it. Garrick has been tearing the camp apart looking for that plate. He will not be a problem much longer.
But Garrick was not done. That night, he came to the school site with 4 men, all armed. He stood in the center of the lot, a lantern in his hand, and called out,
Sullivan! Ella! I know you are here. Come out or I burn the school.
Ella grabbed Ben's arm.
He will do it.
Let him.
This is everything I worked for.
It is wood and nails. You are more than that.
Garrick waited, then nodded to one of his men. The man stepped forward with a torch and touched it to the corner of the school frame. The wood caught, flames licking up the boards. Ella cried out and ran forward, and Ben grabbed her, pulling her back.
No,
He is destroying it.
we will rebuild.
Garrick laughed, the sound echoing across the camp.
You see, Ella? You cannot escape me. Everything you build, I will tear down.
Ben let go of Ella and stepped into the firelight.
You are done, Garrick. The marshal has the plate. Deputies are on their way. You can run, or you can face justice. Justice? There is no justice for men like me. I make my own rules. Not anymore.
Garrick drew his gun, and Ben moved. He was faster, his hand closing on Garrick's wrist and twisting. The gun fired into the dirt, and Ben drove his fist into Garrick's stomach, doubling him over. The 4 men stepped forward, but the sound of horses stopped them. The marshal and 6 deputies rode into the camp, rifles drawn.
Garrick Caldwell, you are under arrest for land fraud, extortion, and murder.
Garrick stared at Ben, fury and disbelief in his eyes.
You were working with them. I was doing my job. You are a lawman? I was. Now I am just a man trying to go straight.
The deputies dismounted and took Garrick and his men into custody. The marshal tipped his hat to Ben and Ella.
Good work.
They watched the prisoners ride away, the firelight flickering behind them. Ella turned to Ben, tears on her cheeks.
The school is gone.
We will rebuild. Together.
Why would you do that?
Because I believe in what you are trying to do. And because I believe in you.
She looked at him, saw the honesty in his eyes, the quiet strength that had carried them through.
I do not even know your real story.
I was an outlaw. Rode with a gang. Took things that were not mine. One day, we robbed a bank, and a woman got hurt. I saw her face, saw the fear, and I knew I could not do it anymore. I turned myself in, served my time, and when I got out, the marshal gave me a chance to make things right. So I go undercover, gather evidence, bring bad men to justice. That is my story.
And now?
Now I think I am done being undercover. I think I want to be someone real.
Who do you want to be?
A man who builds schools. A man who stands beside a woman, brave enough to start over.
She smiled, and he took her hand.
I think I would like that.
The next morning, they started clearing the burned timber. Hank and a dozen loggers came to help, and by afternoon, they had the site cleaned and new lumber stacked. Ella drew a new plan, bigger this time, with room for desks and a small library. Ben worked beside her, cutting and fitting, and by evening, the frame of the first wall was standing again. A week passed, then 2. The school took shape, its walls rising clean and straight, its roof beams settling into place. Ella worked every day, measuring and teaching the loggers how to fit the boards tight, and Ben worked beside her, steady and silent, always there when she needed him. At night, they sat by the fire in the bunkhouse, talking quietly about the future, about the children who would come, about the books they would need. The town began to change. With Garrick gone, the bridge toll vanished, and travelers started coming through again. Merchants brought goods, families brought hope, and the logging camp felt less like a prison and more like a place people chose to be. Ella wrote letters to churches and schools back east, asking for donations of books and slates, and Ben rode to the nearest settlement to post them. But Garrick Caldwell was not finished. He sat in a cell 2 towns over, waiting for trial, and the anger in him grew hot and bitter. He sent word to his brother, a man named Cass, who rode with a gang of drifters and thieves. Cass got the message, read it twice, and gathered 6 men. They rode north toward Dry Creek, moving fast and quiet, keeping to the ridges where the trees gave cover. Hank spotted them first. He was standing near the mill, checking the blade, when he saw the riders come out of the trees, moving in a line, their hats low and their coats dusty. He ran to the bunkhouse, found Ben and Ella inside sorting nails. Hank shouted that riders were coming, 6 of them, and they did not look friendly. Ben stood, his face going hard and calm.
Get everyone inside the mill. Bar the doors. Do not come out until I say.
Ella grabbed his arm.
You cannot face 6 men alone.
I am not alone. You are here, and I am not letting them take what we have built.
She held his gaze, saw the quiet fire in him, the man who had been an outlaw, and learned to be something better.
Then, I am staying with you.
No. You are the reason this town has hope. If something happens to me, they will need you.
And if something happens to you, I will need you.
He touched her face, his hand gentle.
I will come back. I promise.
She nodded, her throat tight, and ran to gather the loggers. Within minutes, the mill was full of people, the doors barred, the windows shuttered. Ben stood alone in the yard, his hand resting on his revolver, watching the riders come closer. They stopped 20 feet away, their horses stamping and blowing. The man in front was older than the others, his face lean and scarred, his eyes cold. Cass spoke, his voice flat and hard. He said his brother was in jail because of a lie, and he wanted the people who put him there. Ben answered, his tone calm and even.
Your brother put himself in jail. He broke the law. He hurt people.
Cass leaned forward in his saddle, his hand moving to his rifle. He said Garrick told him about a photograph, about a woman who thought she could ruin a good man. Ben shook his head.
Good men do not burn schools or threaten families.
Cass smiled, but there was no warmth in it. He said if Ben did not hand over the woman in the photograph, he and his men would burn the camp to the ground. Ben took a step forward, his hand still resting on his gun.
You can try, but I will put 3 of you down before you clear Leather, and the rest will run.
Cass studied him, saw the stillness in him, the way he stood loose and ready, like a man who had done this before and was not afraid to do it again. One of the riders behind Cass shifted nervously, his horse sidestepping. Cass raised his hand, holding his men in check. Then a door opened, and Ella stepped out of the mill, carrying the glass photograph plate wrapped in cloth. Ben turned, his face going tight with fear and anger.
Get back inside.
No. This is what he wants. This is what ends it.
She walked across the yard, her step steady, and stopped beside Ben. She unwrapped the plate, held it up so Cass could see. The firelight from a nearby lantern caught the image, the bridge, Garrick counting money, the fear on the traveler's face.
This is what your brother did. This is the truth. You can burn this camp, you can hurt us, but it will not change what he is.
Cass stared at the plate, his jaw tight. He looked at Ella, at Ben, at the mill full of people watching through the cracks. He was silent for a long moment. Then he spat into the dirt. Cass said his brother was a fool, and he was not going to die for a fool. He turned his horse, and the other riders followed, their shapes fading into the trees. Ben let out a slow breath, his shoulders loosening. Ella stood beside him, still holding the plate, her hands shaking.
You should not have done that.
Yes, I should have.
You could have been killed.
So could you.
He turned to her, saw the fire in her eyes, the courage that had brought her here, and kept her standing.
You are the stubbornest woman I have ever met.
And you are the most impossible man.
She smiled, and he laughed, a low, relieved sound. He took the plate from her hands, wrapped it carefully, and set it aside. Then he pulled her close, his arms around her, and she leaned into him, her face against his chest, feeling his heart beat steady and strong. The mill doors opened, and the loggers came out, cheering and clapping. Hank walked over, his face split in a wide grin. He said Ben had nerves of steel, and Ella had more courage than 10 men. Ella laughed, wiping her eyes, and Ben shook Hank's hand. The celebration lasted an hour, then everyone drifted back to their bunks, tired and relieved. Ben and Ella stayed outside, sitting on the steps of the school frame, looking up at the stars.
Do you think they will come back?
No. Cass is not a fool. He knows what would happen.
What about Garrick?
He will stand trial. The photograph is evidence. He will go to prison for a long time.
She nodded, leaning her head on his shoulder.
I keep thinking about what you said. That you wanted to be someone real.
I meant it.
Then be real with me. Stay here. Help me build this school. Help me teach these children.
I would like that.
She turned to him, her eyes bright in the starlight.
Ben Sullivan, are you asking to stay?
Ella Sullivan, I am asking for more than that.
He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles.
I am asking if you will let me be part of your life. Not just for the school, not just for the town, but for you.
Her breath caught, and she smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks.
Yes.
He kissed her then, slow and gentle, under the stars and the rising moon, and the world felt whole and right. The weeks that followed were busy and full. The school was finished by midsummer, its walls whitewashed, its roof tight, its windows fitted with glass that caught the morning sun. Ella ordered desks from a carpenter in the settlement, and they arrived on a wagon pulled by 6 horses, each desk carved and smooth and perfect. She arranged them in rows, swept the floor, and hung a slate on the wall. Ben built shelves for books, and when the donated crates arrived from back east, they unpacked them together, laughing at the titles, reading passages aloud. The first day of school, 12 children came, their faces scrubbed and their clothes mended. Ella stood at the front of the room, her heart full, and welcomed them. She taught reading and arithmetic, history and writing, and Ben sat in the back, watching her, proud and amazed. At noon, the children ate lunches packed by their mothers, and Ella walked among them, answering questions, correcting mistakes, smiling. In the evenings, she and Ben walked by the river, talking about the day, planning the next. He told her stories about his past, the places he had been, the things he had done, and she listened without judgment, her hand in his. She told him about her family back east, about the dreams she had carried west, about the loneliness she had felt before he came. They built a life together, day by day, moment by moment, and it was good. But the past was not finished with them. Late in August, a marshal arrived from the territorial capital, riding a tired horse and carrying a letter. He found Ben at the mill, checking lumber, and handed him the envelope. Ben opened it, read it twice, his face going still. The marshal said Garrick Caldwell had escaped custody during transport, killed a deputy, and disappeared into the hills. There was a warrant, a reward, and a warning. Garrick had sworn he would come back to Dry Creek and finish what he started. Ben thanked the marshal, folded the letter, and walked to the school. Ella was inside, wiping down the slate, humming softly. He told her the news, his voice calm but his eyes hard.
He is coming.
When?
Soon. Maybe days. Maybe hours.
What do we do?
We prepare. We do not run.
She nodded, her fear buried deep under her resolve.
Then, we stand together.
They spent the day securing the camp. Ben organized the loggers into watches, posted men at the bridge and the road, and made sure everyone had a weapon and knew how to use it. Ella moved the children and their families into the mill, where the walls were thick and the doors strong. She brought blankets and food, water and medicine, and made the space as safe as she could. By nightfall, the camp was quiet and tense, every man on edge, every woman watching the trees. Garrick came at dawn, alone this time, his face gaunt and wild, his coat torn and stained. He rode into camp slowly, his horse limping, his revolver in his hand. He stopped in the center of the yard, looked around at the shuttered buildings, the armed men on the rooftops, the silence. Garrick shouted for Ella, his voice cracking and raw. He said she had ruined him, taken everything, and he would not leave until she paid. Ben stepped out of the bunkhouse, his rifle in his hands, his face cold.
You are done, Garrick. Ride away, or I will put you down.
Garrick laughed, a broken, bitter sound. He said he had nothing left to lose, no reason to run. He raised his revolver, aimed it at the mill where Ella was hidden. Ben fired first, the shot echoing across the camp, and Garrick fell from his horse, clutching his shoulder, his gun skittering into the dirt. Ben walked over, kicked the gun away, and stood over him.
It is over.
Garrick looked up at him, hatred burning in his eyes. Then his face went slack, and he slumped back, unconscious. The loggers came running, tied him up, and loaded him onto a wagon. The marshal arrived an hour later, took custody, and promised Garrick would never see the outside of a prison again. Ben watched the wagon roll away, his body tired, his heart lighter. Ella ran to him, threw her arms around him, and held him tight.
I thought I would lose you.
You will not. Not now. Not ever.
She pulled back, looked at his face, saw the exhaustion and the relief.
What happens now?
Now. We live.
They walked to the schoolhouse, stood in the doorway, and looked at the rows of empty desks waiting for the children to return. The sun broke through the clouds, spilling light across the floor, and Ella smiled.
It is beautiful.
You made it beautiful.
We made it.
He took her hand, laced his fingers through hers.
Marry me. Ella.
She looked at him, her breath catching, her eyes filling with tears.
Yes.
He kissed her, and the world disappeared, leaving only the two of them, the school they had built, the life they had fought for. The wedding was small, held on a Sunday afternoon at the schoolhouse, with the whole camp in attendance. Ella wore a simple white dress she had sewn herself, and Ben wore a clean shirt and his best coat. Hank stood as witness, and the traveling preacher who passed through once a month spoke the words that made them husband and wife. They kissed, and the loggers cheered, and someone played a fiddle while the children danced. That evening, they stood outside the train station at the edge of town, waiting for the supply train that would bring more books and slates for the school. The sun was setting, the sky streaked with gold and pink, and the air was cool and clean. Ella leaned against Ben, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder.
I never thought I would be this happy.
Neither did I.
What do you think will happen next?
I think we will teach the children, build more schools, grow old together.
That sounds perfect.
The train whistle blew, long and clear, and they turned to watch it approach, its smoke rising into the evening sky. Ben pulled Ella close, kissed her slowly, and she laughed, the sound full of joy and promise. The train pulled into the station, and they stood there together, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. She built a school, and he was hiding a deadly secret. Dry Creek, Minnesota, 1890. Ella Sullivan arrives in a northern logging camp with a bold promise: build a school if the town will back her. But when ex-outlaw Ben Sullivan rides in undercover, neither expects the danger waiting in the shadows. A corrupt tollkeeper, a stolen photograph, and a past that refuses to stay buried threaten everything they are building. As fire, betrayal, and bullets close in, Ella and Ben must decide if love is worth the fight. A Wild West romance filled with courage, danger, and a hard-won happy ending. Subscribe for more sweeping frontier love stories. Wild West romance, frontier love story, 1890s historical romance, cowboy romance, Minnesota logging camp, undercover outlaw, school teacher romance, homesteader story, western danger, escaped convict revenge, corrupt town, frontier justice, ex-outlaw redemption, courage and love, happy ending romance, wild West tale, period drama, train station kiss, frontier adventure, sweeping romance, colorized late 1800s American West photograph. Natural light, gentle contrast, slightly soft focus, subtle film grain, faint dust/scratches, slight vignetting, no text, no watermark. Evening at a small frontier train station platform. Golden hour sunset light casting warm amber glow across the scene. Ella Sullivan, late 20s, honey blonde hair and a loose bun, bright blue eyes, slender build, wearing a faded blue calico dress with a cream knitted shawl, stands wrapped in the arms of Ben Sullivan, early 30s, dark brown hair, steel gray eyes, lean muscular build, wearing a black cowboy hat, Charcot, owl duster coat, over a tan shirt and dark trousers. They are kissing deeply, their faces showing pure joy and love, tears of happiness visible on Ella's cheeks. Ben holds her protectively, one hand cradling her head, the other around her waist. Behind them, a steam train pulls into the station, white smoke billowing, the whistle blowing, the locomotive and passenger car visible. The platform boards are weathered wood, Foreground includes a waiting trunk and a coil of rope. Midground shows the couple and the arriving train. Background shows the small station building, tracks stretching into the distance, and the sky glowing with gold, pink, and amber sunset tones. 3 loggers stand on the platform edge watching and cheering. A lantern hangs from a post, unlit. The forest line is visible in the far distance under the warm sky. The palette is rich, with warm beige, amber, and sunset tones, darker and dramatic, not bright. Photorealistic cinematic style, shot on cinema camera. Natural golden hour lighting. Shallow depth of field with soft bokeh background. Warm beige and amber color grading. Looks like a film still from a premium Western romance movie. Authentic 1800s period photography aesthetic. Professional portrait photog. RAFI quality. 2 days later, the school walls were up and the roof timbers in place. Ella stood in the doorway, looking at the raw wood and empty space that would soon hold children and books and hope. Ben came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist.
What are you thinking?
That I never imagined it would happen this way. That I would lose everything and gain everything in the same week.
You did not lose everything. You never lost your dream.
I almost did. If you had not been here.
But I was. And I am not going anywhere.
She turned in his arms, kissed him softly.
I love you, Ben Sullivan.
I love you, Ella Sullivan.
He grinned at the sound of it, and she laughed.
We are not married yet.
We will be. Soon as the preacher comes through.
And until then?
Until then, we build a school.
They worked through the week, laying floorboards and hanging the door. The town brought donations, desks and slates, and a small stove for winter. Hank donated a bell for the roof, and the loggers helped mount it on a sturdy frame. By the end of June, the school was finished, bright and clean and ready. But the peace did not last. 3 days before the school was set to open, a rider came in at dusk, his horse lathered and wild-eyed. He stumbled into the camp and shouted for help. Caldwell had escaped. The news spread through Dry Creek like wildfire. The marshal sent word that Caldwell had overpowered a guard during transport and disappeared into the woods. He was armed, dangerous, and headed north. Ben listened to the report, his face hard.
He is coming here.
How do you know?
Because he has nothing left but revenge. And he knows you are the one who brought him down.
Ella felt the fear rise, cold and sharp, but she pushed it back.
Then, we will be ready.
Ben organized a watch, posting men around the camp and the school. Hank brought rifles and ammunition, and the loggers took shifts through the night. Ella stayed close to Ben, her rifle loaded and ready. They did not speak much, but they did not need to. The weight of what was coming sat heavy between them. Caldwell struck at midnight. Ella was standing by the school when she heard the crack of a rifle shot. Glass shattered in the window behind her, and she dove to the ground, her heart hammering. Ben was beside her in an instant, pulling her behind the school wall.
Stay down.
More shots rang out, bullets thudding into the wood. The loggers returned fire, muzzle flashes lighting up the darkness. Ben moved to the corner, peered out, and fired twice. A man screamed in the trees, and then silence fell. But it was not over. Caldwell came out of the forest like a ghost, walking slow and deliberate, a revolver in each hand. His face was twisted with rage, his eyes locked on Ella. Caldwell's voice rang out, cold and mocking. "Come out, school teacher, let us finish this." Ben stepped into the open, his gun raised.
You want her. You go through me.
Caldwell laughed, a bitter, broken sound. The toll-keeper's voice was venomous. "You think you can save her? You are just another hired gun. She will forget you the moment you are dead."
Maybe. But I will die, knowing I stood for something. What will you die for?
Caldwell's face darkened, and he raised both guns. Ben fired first, fast and clean, and Caldwell staggered, his left gun falling. But he lifted the right, aimed at Ella, and pulled the trigger. Ben threw himself in front of Ella. The bullet struck him high in the shoulder, spinning him around, and he went down hard. Ella screamed and fired, her shot catching Caldwell square in the chest. He dropped to his knees, his guns falling, and then he collapsed face first into the dirt. Ella rushed to Ben, her hands shaking as she pressed her shawl against the wound.
No. Stay with me.
I am fine. Just a graze.
It is not a graze.
Then it is a small hole. I have had worse.
The loggers surrounded Caldwell, checked for a pulse, and shook their heads. It was over. Marshal Davies arrived at dawn with a federal deputy. They took statements, examined the photograph plate, and arrested the sheriff and the remaining toll collectors. Davies shook Ben's hand as the doctor finished bandaging his shoulder. The marshal spoke quietly, his voice gruff with respect. "You did good work here. You are released from your contract. Go live your life." Ben looked at Ella, standing by the school with sawdust in her hair and tears on her face, and he smiled.
I think I will.
2 weeks later, the school was finished. It stood tall and proud, with glass windows, a wide door, and a hand-carved sign that read Dry Creek School. Ella stood on the porch, watching the children arrive for the first day, their faces bright with hope. Ben stood beside her, his arm in a sling, his heart full.
We did it.
You did it. I just hammered some nails.
You did more than that. You gave me a reason to keep going.
And you gave me a reason to stop running.
That evening, they walked to the train station together. The westbound train was whistling in the distance, and the platform was empty, except for Hank and a few loggers who had come to see them off. Ella had a trunk packed with books and teaching supplies. Ben had his saddlebag and his horse tied to the rail. They were leaving Dry Creek, heading south to start over in a town that needed a school and a man willing to work honest. The train pulled in, steam hissing, the whistle loud and bright. Ella turned to Ben, her eyes shining.
Are you ready?
With you? Always.
He pulled her close and kissed her, slow and deep, and the loggers cheered. When they pulled apart, she laughed, wiping her eyes, and he grinned.
Let us go build something good.
Together.
They boarded the train hand in hand, the whistle blowing one last time as it pulled away from the station, carrying them toward a future full of hope, love, and the promise of a life built together.